Imagine for a moment that you have finally arrived. You are standing on the balcony of a house that belongs to you. No mortgage, no bank, just yours. The air is cool. It is quiet. In the driveway below, the moonlight reflects off a car that costs more than your parents earned in a decade. Everything is perfect. Everything is exactly what you said you wanted. You reach into your pocket. You pull out your phone. The Face ID unlocks, and you tap the banking app. The screen flares up in the dark. The number staring back at you is not just large, it is staggering. It is enough to buy freedom. It is enough to buy silence. It is enough to never work another day in your life. You stare at the commas and the zeros, waiting for that warm wave of safety to wash over you. You are waiting for the sigh of relief, but it never comes. Instead, you feel a familiar, cold spike of adrenaline in your gut. You aren't looking at the number as an achievement. You are looking at it as a target. You are scanning the horizon for a lawsuit, a market crash, a storm that does not exist. This is the diagnosis of the poor billionaire. It is a violent paradox where your external reality is abundance, but your internal reality is survival. You have built the castle of a king, but you are living inside it with the nervous system of a starving scavenger. We call this the ledger of fear. It is an accounting system deep within your brain that refuses to balance. To you, every dollar earned is not an asset. It is just something you are terrified to lose. You are not managing wealth. You are managing anxiety. We have been lied to. We were told that money buys peace. But money is a tool, and security is an emotion. You can't buy a feeling with a number. Today, we are going to audit that internal deficit. We are going to find out why your net worth has skyrocketed, but your self-worth is still in debt. Chapter 1. The Ghost of Empty Cupboards. Imagine standing in your kitchen at 2 in the morning. The house is silent. The only light comes from the street lamps filtering through the blinds, casting long, striped shadows across the floor. You walk to the pantry and pull the door open. Inside, the shelves are groaning under the weight of food. There are bags of rice, cans of soup, boxes of pasta, and spices from corners of the world you have never visited. It is enough sustenance to last for months. Yet, as you stand there, bathed in the pale light, you feel a gnawing pit in your stomach. It is not hunger. It is the ancient, terrifying sensation that tomorrow the shelves will be bare. This is the ghost of empty cupboards. It is a haunting that has nothing to do with physics or logistics or economics. It does not care about the comma in your bank account or the portfolio that your financial advisor assures you is robust. This ghost lives in the nervous system. It resides in the oldest parts of your brain that still remember the cold winters of our ancestors, or perhaps the tighter months of your own childhood. We often believe that the antidote to the feeling of scarcity is abundance. We tell ourselves that if we just reach that next milestone, if we just secure that next million, if we just pay off that last mortgage, then the feeling of dread will vanish. We treat money like a medication, expecting it to cure an internal anxiety. But this is the great paradox of the poor billionaire. You can build a fortress of gold, but if the person living inside it feels like a refugee, the walls offer no comfort. Consider the nature of this fear. It is not a calculation. It is a reflex. When you were starting out, when resources were thin, this anxiety was a useful guardian. It woke you up early. It forced you to work harder. It made you save every penny. It was a survival mechanism that kept you alive in the wilderness of economic uncertainty. But now you have left the wilderness. You are sitting in a warm house. You are safe. Yet the guardian has not retired. It is still pacing the hallways of your mind, clutching a spear, looking for a threat that no longer exists. This is why you might find yourself arguing over the price of a coffee while sitting on a net worth that could buy the coffee shop. It is why you hesitate to book the vacation or upgrade the car, not because you cannot afford it, but because the act of spending triggers a warning signal. The brain screams danger. It insists that the flow of resources is temporary. It whispers that the winter is always coming. The tragedy is that you are living in a state of poverty while surrounded by wealth. You are the king who sleeps in the dungeon because he does not trust the castle walls. The external reality has shifted dramatically. You have won the game. But the internal reality, the software running your emotional state, has not received the update. You are running a survival script in a time of peace. To exercise this ghost, you must understand that money is merely a magnifying glass. It amplifies who you already are. If you are anxious and broke, money will make you anxious and rich. The stakes merely become higher. The fear of losing $10 transforms into the fear of losing 10 million. The object of the fear changes, but the frequency of the vibration remains exactly the same. The shift must happen within the architecture of your perception. You have to walk back to that pantry, open the door, and truly see what is there. You must acknowledge the abundance not as a fleeting stroke of luck, but as the result of your own competence and causality. You have to teach your nervous system that the famine is over. You must consciously thank the guardian for its years of service, and then gently relieve it of its duty. When you do this, the numbers in your bank account stop being a measure of your safety and start being simply a tool. The panic subsides. The chest loosens. You realize that you are not the sum of your assets. You are the one who created them. The ghost fades not because you bought it off, but because you finally turned on the light. If this chapter of our story has illuminated a shadow in your own life, consider staying with us for the rest of the journey. We are mapping the human experience one layer at a time. Please press the subscribe button to ensure you do not miss the next page. Chapter 2. The Moving Horizon. You have settled the ledger of fear, and you have acknowledged the ghost that haunts the empty cupboards of your memory. Yet here you stand in the midst of plenty, and you still feel the draft of poverty chilling your bones. You look at a bank balance that would have seemed like a king's ransom to your younger self, and you feel nothing but a vague and impending doom. You check the numbers again. The math says you are safe. Your pulse says you are in danger. This disconnect brings us to the most treacherous illusion in the psychology of wealth. We call this the moving horizon. Imagine a traveler walking across a vast and flat landscape. In the distance, he sees the line where the earth meets the sky. He tells himself that if he can just reach that line, he will finally sit down and rest. He believes the horizon is a physical structure, a wall he can lean against. So he walks. He covers 10 miles. He looks up. The horizon is exactly as far away as it was when he started. He walks another 10 miles. The distance remains the same. The horizon is not a destination. It is a relationship between his eye and the earth. It recedes as he advances. This is the precise mechanism governing your financial anxiety. You likely have a number in your head, a specific figure. You whispered it to yourself years ago. You said that once your net worth hit that number, you would finally exhale. You promised yourself that the knot in your stomach would loosen. Then you worked, you sacrificed, you climbed, and one day you hit the number. For a brief moment, there might have been a flicker of satisfaction, but by the next morning, the horizon had moved. The number that once looked like a fortress now looks like a flimsy shack. You suddenly see new threats. You see inflation. You see market volatility. You see medical emergencies that haven't happened yet. You calculate the cost of a lifestyle that has quietly inflated to match your income. The finish line you crossed did not bring the trophy of peace. It only revealed a longer track. It is vital to understand that this is not a moral failing on your part. You are not ungrateful. You are not broken. You are simply functioning according to the basic architecture of the human mind. The brain is an engine of normalization. Its job is to take the extraordinary and render it mundane so that you can focus on the next threat. Think about the first time you drove a car with heated seats. It felt like a decadent luxury. It was a marvel. 3 months later, you got into a car on a cold morning, and the seat heater was broken. You did not just feel neutral, you felt annoyed. You felt deprived. The luxury had become the baseline. This is hedonic adaptation. When you apply this mechanism to money, you create a game that you are designed to lose. As your income rises, your definition of necessity expands to consume the surplus. The expensive dinner becomes the Tuesday standard. The vacation becomes the annual requirement. The luxury car becomes the safe mode of transport. The margin of safety you thought you were building gets swallowed by the new baseline of your existence. You are earning 5 times what you earned a decade ago, but your stress levels are identical because the gap between what you have and what you feel you need has not closed. It has simply moved up the ladder. You are trying to solve an internal problem with external tools. You are trying to fill a bucket that has no bottom. As long as you believe that safety is a number, you will never find it. There is no number high enough to cure a feeling of scarcity that resides in your nervous system. A billionaire who fears poverty is just as terrified as a beggar who fears hunger. The scale of the money is different, but the chemical flood of cortisol in the blood is exactly the same. The horizon will always move. That is the nature of horizons. The solution is not to run faster. The solution is to stop looking at the horizon and look at the ground beneath your feet. You must realize that the feeling of safety you are chasing is not an external destination. It is an internal decision. It is the ability to look at what you have right now and recognize it as enough. This requires a fundamental shift in how you view your resources. You must detach your sense of survival from the accumulation of more. You have to train your mind to recognize the difference between a threat to your life and a threat to your lifestyle. The panic you feel when the market dips is not about starvation. It is about a perceived loss of status or comfort. The paradox of the poor billionaire is resolved only when the billionaire stops counting the money and starts counting the moments of freedom that the money was supposed to buy. You must step off the treadmill. You must realize that the finish line is not out there in the future. It is drawn wherever you decide to stop running. The horizon will never come to you. You must build your home here where you stand. Chapter 3: Survival Mode in Peacetime. Imagine a soldier who has spent a decade on the front lines. Every rustle in the bushes was a potential ambush. Every silence was a prelude to an attack. His survival depended on hypervigilance. He learned to sleep with one eye open and his boots laced tight. Now imagine this soldier returns home. The war is officially over. He stands in his living room, surrounded by sturdy walls and a locked door. The refrigerator is full. The neighborhood is quiet. There are no enemies for 1,000 miles. Yet he cannot sit still. His heart rate spikes when the mailman drops a letter through the slot. He paces the hallway at 3 in the morning, checking the locks for the 5th time. He is geographically safe, but psychologically, he is still in the trenches. This is the precise reality of the financial survivor. You have spent years, perhaps decades, fighting a war against scarcity. You fought to pay the rent. You fought to establish your career. You clawed your way up from zero with the terrifying knowledge that one false move could send you back to the bottom. Your nervous system adapted to that environment. It learned that money was not just a tool, but a lifeline. A lack of it meant death or ruin. Now you look at your bank account, and the numbers have changed. You are objectively wealthy. You have enough to survive for years, perhaps lifetimes, without working another day. But your nervous system does not read bank statements. It reads patterns. And the pattern it learned is that relaxation is dangerous. This is why you feel broke, despite the abundance. You are living in survival mode during peacetime. The external threat has vanished, but the internal alarm system is stuck in the on position. You treat a minor market fluctuation with the same biological terror as you once treated an eviction notice. You agonize over the price of a dinner check, not because you cannot afford it, but because the act of spending feels like bleeding. It feels like a loss of structural integrity. This paradox is rooted in our biology. Evolution does not care about your happiness or your peace of mind. It cares only about your survival. To the primal brain, it is always better to be paranoid and wrong than to be relaxed and dead. So your mind actively rejects the evidence of your success. It searches for threats where there are none. It interprets stability as the calm before the storm. You might tell yourself that you just need a little bit more. You set a new financial target, believing that once you hit that number, the alarm will finally turn off. You tell yourself you will relax when you have 5 million or 10 million, but this is a deception. You have already passed the previous 3 targets, and the anxiety did not leave. It merely shape-shifted. When you were poor, you worried about paying for groceries. Now that you are rich, you worry about inflation eroding your capital, or litigation taking your assets, or the collapse of the global economy. The content of the fear changes, but the mechanism remains exactly the same. You are still holding your breath, waiting for the other shoe to drop. This state of existence is exhausting. It is a tragedy to win the game of money, and yet play it as if you are currently losing. You have built a fortress to protect yourself, but you have locked yourself inside the dungeon. You have become a custodian of your wealth, rather than its master. You guard the pile of resources like a dragon that cannot sleep because it is terrified of thieves. The difficult truth is that external wealth cannot cure internal insecurity. No amount of zeros in a ledger can convince a nervous system that it is safe to exhale. That signal must be generated from within. You have to recognize that the skills that got you out of poverty are not the same skills that will let you enjoy wealth. The paranoia that drove you to build your empire is now the biggest threat to your enjoyment of it. You are walking through a peaceful garden wearing a suit of heavy armor. It protected you once when the arrows were flying, but now the sun is shining and there is no one left to fight. The armor is just crushing you. The weight you feel is not the pressure of the world. It is the weight of your own defenses. You are safe. The war is over. The only battle left is the one you are fighting against your own history. Chapter 4. The Fortress of Paper. You have escaped the immediate threat of hunger. The ledger of fear has been balanced, and the cupboards are full. Yet the instinct to protect yourself does not vanish simply because the danger has passed. Instead, it evolves. It shifts from the desperate scramble of the hunter into the calculated paranoia of the hoarder. You begin to construct what I call the fortress of paper. Imagine a builder who is convinced a storm is coming. He lays one brick and feels a moment of relief. But then he looks at the horizon and worries that one brick is not enough. So he lays another and another. Soon he has a wall. But what if the wind is stronger than the wall? He builds a second layer.
He reinforces the foundation. He works through the night and through the seasons. Eventually, he is standing inside a massive, windowless citadel. He is safe from the wind, but he can no longer feel the sun. He has walled himself in. This is the reality of the wealthy individual who still feels poor. You are not buying things for enjoyment. You are not investing for growth. You are accumulating assets to serve as insulation between you and the world. You are turning your net worth into a physical barrier against uncertainty. The tragic irony of the fortress of paper is that paper makes for a terrible shield. When you use money as a psychological defense mechanism, you are demanding that a material object solve an emotional problem. You are asking a number on a screen to cure a feeling of vulnerability in your chest.
This is a task the money cannot perform. Consider the logic you use during this construction phase. You tell yourself that there is a specific number that represents safety. You say that once you reach that milestone, you will finally exhale. You reach the number. For a brief afternoon, you feel a sense of accomplishment. But by evening, the old anxiety creeps back in. The brain that is wired for survival immediately discounts what you have acquired and scans for new threats. It whispers that the market could crash. It suggests that inflation could eat the value. It reminds you that lawsuits and theft exist. The fortress is never high enough because the enemy is already inside the walls. The enemy is your own conditioned response to peace. You have trained your nervous system to associate safety with striving.
Therefore, resting in your wealth feels dangerous. Living inside the fortress of paper creates a unique form of isolation. You begin to view every interaction as a potential siege. Generosity feels like removing a brick from your defensive wall, so you stop being generous. Enjoyment feels like negligence, so you stop enjoying. You become a custodian of your own prison. You walk the perimeter of your accounts, checking the locks and verifying the balances. You are technically a billionaire, but experientially, you are a night watchman. The problem is that you are trying to solve an internal state of scarcity with external resources. It is like trying to quench your thirst by pouring water over your head. You can drown in the water, but you will still die of thirst because you are not internalizing it.
You are not letting the reality of your abundance enter your psychology. Deep down, you know the fragility of this fortress. You know that paper burns. You know that currencies fail and empires collapse. By placing your entire sense of safety in the accumulation of wealth, you have actually increased your vulnerability. You have tied your emotional stability to a volatile external factor. If the market dips, your self-worth dips. If the numbers fluctuate, your sanity fluctuates. You have given the keys to your peace of mind to the economy. The way out of the fortress is not to tear down the walls in a fit of recklessness. It is to walk out the front door. You must recognize that the safety you seek does not exist in the future. It does not exist in the next million. It exists in the present capacity to trust your own resilience. You survived the lean years not because you had money, but because you were resourceful. You survived the empty cupboards because you were adaptable. You are the safety mechanism. You are the asset. The money is simply a tool you carry. When you understand this, the paradox dissolves. You realize you do not need a fortress to keep you safe from life. You can step out from behind the paper walls. You can let the sunlight touch you again. You can spend without panic and save without compulsion. You stop being the prisoner of your wealth and finally become its master. The siege is over, but only you have the power to declare peace. Chapter 5. The Calculator in the Mind. There is a quiet room in the back of your mind where the lights never turn off. In this room sits a clerk who never sleeps. He is hunched over a desk that is covered in endless reams of paper. He holds a pen in one hand and taps furiously on a device with the other. This is the calculator in the mind. It is the mechanism that keeps the wealthy feeling destitute and the successful feeling perpetually on the brink of ruin. This internal calculator does not function like the one on your phone or your desk. A standard calculator deals in absolute numbers. It tells you that 10 minus 1 is 9. The calculator in the mind operates on a completely different set of logic. It deals in emotional subtraction. It looks at your accumulated wealth not as a fortress of safety, but as a finite pile of sand in a windstorm. When you look at your bank balance, you might see abundance. You might see years of freedom. But the clerk in the back of your mind sees something else entirely. He sees vulnerability. He immediately begins to run simulations of disaster. He subtracts the looming tax bill. He subtracts the potential market crash that has not happened yet, but certainly could. He subtracts the cost of a theoretical illness that might strike you or a family member in 20 years. He factors in inflation and currency devaluation, and the rusting of your car, and the leaking of a roof that is currently perfectly dry. By the time this mental calculator finishes its equation, the millions in the bank have been reduced to zero. The bottom line always reads the same. It reads, "Not enough." This is the paradox of the poor billionaire. You are wealthy in the physical world, but you are bankrupt in the simulation running inside your head. Consider the daily experience of this state. You go out to dinner with friends. The menu is handed to you. You have enough money to buy the restaurant, let alone the meal. Yet the moment your eyes scan the prices, the calculator engages. It engages before you even feel hunger. It calculates the markup on the wine. It compares the cost of the steak to the cost of groceries. It reminds you that this money, once spent, is gone forever. It whispers that you are being wasteful. It triggers a microdose of adrenaline, the same chemical reaction your ancestors felt when they noticed the winter food stocks were running low. You order the meal, but you cannot taste it. You are chewing on anxiety. The calculator has successfully stripped the moment of its value while trying to protect the value of your currency. This mechanism is not evil. It is actually a very old and very loyal survival instinct. It is designed for scarcity. In a famine, the person who calculates every grain of rice survives. In the wilderness, the person who anticipates every possible disaster lives to see another sunrise. The problem is that you have dragged this survival tool into a life of abundance. You are using a tool designed for starvation to manage a feast. The calculator assumes that money is the only defense against the unknown. It believes that if you just have a high enough number, you will finally be safe from the chaotic nature of existence. But this is a lie. No number is high enough to solve the equation of fear. If you have 1 million,
the calculator worries about losing 1 million. If you have 1 billion, the calculator worries about the complexity of managing it, the lawsuits,
the theft, and the erosion of capital. The variables change, but the anxiety remains constant because the machine is calibrated to find problems, not to recognize solutions. You must understand that this is a psychological habit, not a financial reality. The feeling of being broke has nothing to do with the digit in your account. It is a malfunction in the way you process the present moment. The calculator insists that the future is more real than the present. It insists that the potential catastrophe is more real than the actual safety you possess right now. To dismantle this paradox, you do not need more money. You need to fire the clerk. You need to recognize that the math he is doing is flawed. He is calculating the cost of living, but he is failing to calculate the cost of fear.
He creates a balance sheet where your net worth is high, but your life worth is zero. The silence of this machine does not come from a windfall. It comes from a decision. It comes when you realize that security is not a number derived from subtraction. Security is an internal posture. It is the ability to look at what you have and see it as a tool for living, rather than a shield against dying. Until you shut down the calculator, you will remain a prisoner of your own ledger, counting phantom debts in a palace of gold. The imposter's wallet. You look at the balance on the screen. It is a number that should bring peace. It is a number that implies safety. It is a number that your younger self would have considered a fantasy. Yet, as you stare at the digits, they do not feel real. They look like a typographical error. They look like data on a test server that will be wiped clean when the system resets. This is the imposter's wallet. It is the distinct and unshakable sensation that the money in your possession does not belong to you. It is the feeling that you are merely holding it for someone else, someone smarter, someone better prepared, someone who is actually an adult. This paradox creates a unique form of anxiety that has nothing to do with spending power and everything to do with identity. You have successfully upgraded your external circumstances. You have moved into the better neighborhood. You have secured the higher salary. You have built the investment portfolio. But you have failed to upgrade your internal operating system. The software running your mind is still version 1. It is the version that learned to survive on scarcity. It is the version that knows how to stretch a dollar and how to panic when the rent is due. When you try to run a high net worth reality on a scarcity-based operating system, the system crashes. You experience cognitive dissonance. You walk into a luxury store or a car dealership, and you wait for the security guard to ask you to leave. You sit in a boardroom, and you wait for the CEO to realize they hired a fraud. You pay for dinner, and you feel a spike of adrenaline as the card is swiped, terrified that it will be declined, despite knowing there are ample funds. You are waiting to be found out. The imposter's wallet turns your success into a source of guilt. You feel that your wealth is the result of a cosmic, clerical error. You attribute your standing to luck, or timing, or the ignorance of others. You tell yourself that you just happened to be in the right place at the right time. You refuse to acknowledge the hours of labor and the strategic decisions and the sacrifices that brought you here. By attributing your success to luck, you rob yourself of agency. If luck brought it to you, then bad luck can take it away. This makes you feel helpless. You become a passenger in your own life, watching the scenery of wealth pass by, but terrified to touch the controls. This creates a dangerous relationship with your resources. Because you feel you do not deserve the money, you may subconsciously try to get rid of it. This is the self-sabotage of the imposter. You might spend recklessly on things you do not need, simply to return your bank account to a number that feels familiar. A low number feels safe because you know how to survive there. Poverty is comfortable because it is known. Wealth is terrifying because it is a foreign country where you do not speak the language. Alternatively, you might freeze. You become a hoarder of digital currency. You refuse to invest in yourself or your comfort. You wear worn-out shoes while sitting on a fortune. You delay necessary medical procedures. You live in a state of artificial poverty because you are saving for a disaster that exists only in your imagination. You are guarding the money so fiercely that you become its prisoner rather than its master. You are the custodian of a museum that no one is allowed to visit. To escape the trap of the imposter's wallet, you must confront the evidence of reality. You must become a forensic accountant of your own history. Look at the chain of causality. Trace the money back to its source. It did not appear by magic. It appeared because you performed a service. It appeared because you solved a problem. It appeared because you created value that the market recognized and compensated. The money is not a mistake. It is a receipt. It is the physical proof of your effort and your competence. The feeling of being a fraud is a lie your brain tells you to keep you safe in the familiar zone of the past. But the past is gone. You are not that scared child anymore. You are the architect of your current position. The wallet is yours. The name on the account is yours. The choices that filled it were yours. There is no authority figure coming to audit your life and strip you of your achievements. There is only you and the ledger. The money is simply a tool, and it is waiting for your hand to guide it. You must accept that you are the kind of person who possesses wealth. You must accept that your identity can expand to match your reality. Until you own the identity, you will never truly own the money. It will just be numbers on a screen mocking a person who is afraid to believe their own eyes. The cost of cheapness. There is a specific form of madness that infects the mind of the sudden billionaire or the high earner who has not yet shed the skin of poverty. It is a distinctive behavior pattern that looks like prudence from the outside but feels like suffocation on the inside. We call this the cost of cheapness. It is distinct from frugality. Frugality is a strategy of maximization. It is the wise allocation of resources to get the most value. Cheapness is different. Cheapness is a panic response. It is a reflex born of the fear that the money supply will suddenly vanish. This reflex causes you to make decisions based solely on price tags rather than value, and ironically, this habit ensures that you remain trapped in a feeling of scarcity regardless of your bank balance. Let us examine the anatomy of a cheap decision. Imagine you are standing in a store. You need a pair of boots. There is a high-quality pair that is expensive but durable. There is a cheap pair that looks acceptable but feels flimsy. The calculator in your mind immediately screams at the higher number. It triggers the old survival alarm. You buy the cheap boots. You feel a momentary rush of victory because you have saved money. You have beaten the system. You have kept the hoard intact. But let us trace the timeline forward. 3 months later, the soles wear thin. Water seeps in. Your feet are cold and wet. You walk with discomfort. The boots eventually fall apart. You must return to the store. You face the same decision again. If you buy the cheap boots a second time, you have now spent nearly as much as the quality pair would have cost in the beginning. Yet you have had wet feet for months.
You have walked in discomfort. You have spent time returning to the store. This is the economic reality of being poor. It is expensive to be poor. But when you are rich and you still act this way, it is a tragedy. You are voluntarily imposing the penalties of poverty upon a wealthy life. There is a tax on cheapness that does not show up on a receipt. It is the tax on your cognitive bandwidth. The cheap mindset requires constant maintenance. You are always patching things together. You are always looking for a workaround. You are driving 20 minutes out of your way to save pennies on fuel. You are spending hours researching how to fix a low-quality appliance that should have been replaced years ago. You are trading your most non-renewable resource, which is time, for your most renewable resource, which is money. This behavior keeps your nervous system in a state of low-level agitation. You are surrounded by objects and experiences that do not work. The handle on the door jiggles. The towel is scratchy. The food is mediocre. These small irritations accumulate. They create a background hum of friction. You cannot feel abundant when your physical environment is constantly failing you. You cannot feel powerful when you are fighting with a dull knife or wearing a shirt that itches.
These objects constantly signal to your subconscious that you are not worth quality. They reinforce the identity of the struggler. The wealthy mind understands the concept of utility and longevity. It asks a different set of questions. It asks if this object will solve the problem once and for all. It asks if this service will buy back time. It asks if this experience will provide lasting memory or value. The cheap mind asks only how little it can get away with spending. This is a defensive posture. It assumes the world is hostile and resources are finite. It assumes that every dollar spent is a dollar lost forever, rather than a seed planted for future utility. When you cling to cheapness, you are telling yourself a story. You are saying that your current state of wealth is a mistake. You are saying that the crash is coming, and you must prepare for the famine. You are building a bunker instead of a castle. You are hoarding grain while it rots in the silo. This is why you feel broke. You are living the lifestyle of the besieged. To escape the imposter's wallet, you must begin to value the quality of your interaction with the world more than the number in the ledger. You must learn to pay the price for peace of mind. You must learn that efficiency and reliability have a monetary value. When you buy the better option, you are not just buying a product. You are buying freedom from future worry. You are silencing the noise of maintenance. You are telling yourself that you are capable of generating more resources, and therefore you do not need to clutch the ones you have so tightly until they turn to dust in your hands. The cost of cheapness is the inability to enjoy the safety you have worked so hard to build. It is the paradox of the man who owns the lake but refuses to drink for fear of lowering the water level. The water is there. It is fresh. It is abundant. But your throat remains parched because you cannot let go of the fear of the drought that ended 20 years ago. The guilt of the survivor. You stand in the center of a living room that you own. The floors are polished hardwood, and the furniture is exactly what you once dreamed of having. The thermostat is set to a perfect temperature, and the refrigerator is full. By all accounting metrics, you have arrived. The war is over. The siege has been lifted. Yet there is a heaviness in your chest that no amount of luxury can displace. This is the unique and suffocating atmosphere of survivor guilt. It is a specific variety of psychological torment that strikes only those who have escaped the gravity of poverty while leaving others behind.
You have crossed the river to the fertile bank, but you cannot enjoy the harvest because you can still see the smoke rising from the village you left behind. It begins quietly. It manifests when you sit down to a dinner that costs more than your parents used to earn in a week. The waiter places the plate in front of you. The presentation is exquisite. But as you lift your fork, a voice in the back of your mind whispers a harsh accusation. It tells you that this indulgence is a betrayal. It suggests that your comfort is built on a foundation of abandonment. You swallow the food, but it tastes like ash.
You pay the bill without flinching financially, but you pay a heavy tax emotionally. This is not a logical equation. It is a visceral recoil. You feel that by enjoying your wealth, you are severing the bond with your past. You are breaking the unwritten pact of shared suffering. For years, or perhaps decades, your identity was forged in the fire of scarcity. You were part of a tribe that struggled together. You bonded over what you could not afford. You laughed about the creative ways you stretched a dollar. That struggle was the glue that held your world together. Now you have dissolved that glue. You have solved the problem that defined your existence and the existence of everyone you love. And instead of feeling liberated, you feel like a defector. You feel like a soldier who fled the trenches while his brothers were still under fire. This guilt creates a bizarre behavioral paradox, where you have money, but you refuse to let it serve you. You sabotage your own joy to maintain a sense of solidarity with the struggling. You might find yourself wearing worn-out clothes, even though you can afford a tailored suit. You might delay fixing a minor issue in your home until it becomes a major problem, simply because spending the money feels indulgent. You hoard cash not for safety, but for penance. You are subconsciously trying to prove that even though your bank account has changed, you have not. You remain loyal to the struggle by artificially recreating the conditions of poverty within your own mind. The tragedy of this state is that your misery serves no one. Your self-imposed emotional poverty does not put food on anyone else's table. Your inability to sleep soundly in a comfortable bed does not pay your cousin's rent. It is a solitary ritual of shame that accomplishes nothing but the degradation of your own life. You are casting your wealth into a furnace of guilt, hoping the smoke will signal to your past that you are still one of them. This guilt also warps your relationships. When you interact with those who still struggle, you might hide your success. You downplay your achievements. You park the new car around the corner. You edit your life story in real time to avoid triggering their envy or your own shame. You become a chameleon, mimicking the constraints of a life you have already outgrown. You are terrified that if you fully inhabit your new reality, you will lose the only love and connection you have ever known. But you must understand that this loyalty is misplaced. True loyalty is not joining others in the pit. True loyalty is showing that it is possible to climb out. By dimming your light, you do not help them see in the dark. You simply add to the gloom. The ledger of fear we discussed earlier has a column for social debt. It tallies every nice thing you have and marks it as a theft from those who have nothing. But this ledger is a fabrication of a mind that has not yet accepted safety. To break this cycle, you must accept a hard truth. Your suffering is not a currency. You cannot pay for the hardships of others with your own unhappiness. The world does not require you to be miserable in order to balance the scales of justice. The guilt you feel is simply the grief of transition. It is the mourning of an old identity that must die so that a new one can breathe. You are not abandoning your past by enjoying your present. You are honoring the effort it took to get here.
You are the survivor. And the duty of the survivor is not to apologize for living. The duty of the survivor is to live well. The internal pivot. We arrive now at the crux of the matter. You have identified the ghosts. You have seen the fortress of paper. You acknowledge the calculator running incessantly in the back of your mind. Yet knowing these things is not the same as changing them. Awareness is the map, but it is not the territory. To move from a state of perpetual scarcity to a reality of abundance requires a deliberate mechanical shift. We call this the internal pivot. This is not a financial strategy.
You cannot budget your way out of a feeling. You cannot invest your way into peace of mind. If the accumulation of wealth was the cure for financial anxiety, then the billionaire would never worry about losing a cent. Yet we know this is false. The pivot must happen in the architecture of your perception before it can manifest in your experience of life. Consider the mechanism of a thermostat. If a thermostat is set to freezing, it does not matter how much fire you build in the fireplace. The system will fight to cool the room down. It will open the windows. It will blast the air conditioning. It will do everything in its power to return the environment to the baseline setting. Your internal baseline was likely set years ago. It was set during times of struggle. It was welded in place by the lean years, or by the lessons of parents who stockpiled canned goods for a winter that never ended. You have poured money into your life like fuel on a fire, but your internal thermostat is still set to survival. You are rich in assets, but your nervous system is poor. The internal pivot is the act of walking over to the wall and manually adjusting that dial. This begins by separating the signal from the noise. The noise is the old narrative. It is the voice that whispers disaster when you spend money on a dinner. It is the sudden spike of adrenaline when the market dips by a fraction of a percent. This is biological noise. It is your amygdala firing a warning shot for a tiger that is not there. The signal, however, is the objective truth. The signal is the math.
The signal is the fact that you have 6 months, or 6 years, or 6 generations of living expenses sitting in a secure account. Making the pivot requires you to trust the signal over the noise. It feels unnatural at first. It feels reckless. When you first stop checking your bank balance 5 times a day, you will feel a withdrawal symptom. The anxiety will flare up because checking was your pacifier. It was the ritual that confirmed you were still safe. By stopping the ritual, you force your brain to rely on a new source of safety. You force it to rely on the objective reality of your success, rather than the subjective loop of your fear. You must understand that money has no emotion. A dollar bill does not know if it is being held by a desperate man or a calm man. The numbers in your ledger are neutral.
They are ink on a page or pixels on a screen. You are the projector. You project fear onto those numbers, and they reflect it back to you. You project scarcity, and they seem insufficient. The internal pivot is the conscious decision to project competence and stability instead. This changes how you make decisions. The person stuck in survival mode makes decisions based on preventing loss. Every choice is a defensive maneuver. The person who has pivoted makes decisions based on creating value. They move from playing not to lose to playing to win. They understand that money is a tool and not a master. A carpenter does not worship his hammer. He does not fear breaking his saw. He uses them to build. You have treated your money like a fragile artifact in a museum, but it is meant to be a tool in a workshop. The pivot also demands that you redefine the concept of enough.
This is perhaps the hardest task for the driven individual. The horizon keeps moving because you refuse to plant a flag. You must define what enough looks like. You must give your brain a finish line. Without a finish line, you remain in the race forever, and the person running a race is never at rest. You can continue to earn and continue to build, but you must do so from a place of surplus rather than a deficit. There is a profound difference between the man who eats because he is starving and the man who eats because he enjoys the meal. Both consume the same food, both take the same action, but the internal state is opposites. One is driven by pain, and the other by pleasure. One is chased by death, and the other is embracing life. The internal pivot is the transition from the starving man to the feasting man. You are already at the banquet. The table is set. The food is warm. You simply have to stop clutching the silverware as if someone is about to snatch it away. You must sit down. You must breathe. You must finally allow yourself to eat. Chapter 10. Defining True Opulence. We have reached the final turning point in this narrative. After dissecting the anatomy of scarcity and dismantling the ledger of fear, we must now construct something in its place. We need to define the destination. We call this state true opulence. But before you let your mind wander to images of gold leaf and velvet ropes, you must understand that the dictionary definition of opulence has misled you. We are not talking about gaudy excess or waste. We are talking about a specific psychological frequency. True opulence is the silence of the mind. Think back to the calculator that has been running in your head for years. That relentless machine that subtracts the cost of a coffee from your future survival. Opulence is the moment that machine runs out of batteries and you simply do not replace them. It is the quiet confidence that the resource you are spending will be replenished. It is the fundamental belief in your own competence to generate value. You might believe that opulence is a function of mathematics. You think it appears when the number in the bank account hits a specific threshold. But we have already proven that the horizon moves. If you chase the number, you will never catch the feeling. We know billionaires who live in a state of absolute poverty because they wake up every morning terrified of losing what they have. They are merely custodians of a fortune they are too afraid to touch. That is not opulence. That is high-stakes imprisonment. True opulence is the ability to exhale. It is a physiological state as much as a financial one. When you are stuck in the Poor Billionaire Paradox, your nervous system is trapped in a permanent contraction. You hold your breath when you tap your card. You feel a phantom pain when money leaves your account. Opulence is the release of that breath. It is the understanding that money is like blood in the body. It must circulate to keep the organism alive. If you hoard blood in one location, you do not get health, you get a clot. To live in true opulence means you have shifted your focus from the cost of things to the value of things. The impoverished mind asks, how much does this cost? The opulent mind asks, what does this buy me in terms of time, energy, and experience? This is a critical distinction. When you operate from scarcity, you buy the cheapest option because you are trying to protect the pile of paper in the fortress. When you operate from opulence, you buy the solution that preserves your peace of mind because you recognize that your mental energy is the most expensive asset you own. This state requires you to trust the laws of cause and effect. It is not magic. It is not wishful thinking. It is the rational assessment that you have survived every challenge life has thrown at you so far. You have navigated the lean years. You have built skills. You have value to offer the marketplace. Because of this history, you can afford to trust your future self. You do not need to hoard every penny today to protect the helpless version of yourself you imagine will exist 10 years from now. That helpless version is a fiction created by fear. The real version of you is resilient and capable. When you walk through the world with this mindset, your posture changes. You are no longer apologizing for taking up space. You are no longer signaling to the world that you are one disaster away from ruin. You signal stability. Interestingly, this signal often attracts more resources. People want to do business with those who are not desperate. Opportunities flow toward stability and away from panic. By curing the internal poverty, you unknowingly create the conditions for external expansion. So let us redefine wealth one last time. Wealth is not just the number on the screen. Wealth is the absence of anxiety regarding that number. It is the freedom to be present in your life without the constant background noise of calculation. It is the ability to sit in a room and feel entirely safe, not because you have built a wall of cash high enough to block out the sun, but because you have dismantled the fear that made you build the wall in the first place. This is the end of the paradox. The ledger is closed. The calculator is silent. You are finally free to enjoy the life you have earned. The exhale. We arrive finally at the moment of release. This is the exhale. After years of guarding your fortress of paper and tallying every potential disaster, you realize the war is actually over. The silence you hear is not an ambush, but peace. True wealth is not found in the addition of another zero to your net worth. It is found in the subtraction of anxiety. It is the ability to sit with a simple cup of coffee and taste it fully without calculating its cost against your future survival. You have spent a lifetime building a ship to survive the storm, and now you must learn to sail it in calm waters. The ledger is closed. The math is done. You are allowed to be here. You are safe. Step away from the calculator in your mind and walk out into the life you have already purchased. This is what you worked for. It was never about the hoarding of resources, but the freedom to use them. Take a deep breath. You made it.